Dan Illman, Mike Beer, creeping ever closer to the Preakness Stakes. Grade 2 Dixie Stakes, race number 12 at Pimlico on Saturday. Good field of older turf horses going a mile and a 16th on the turf. Get involved with a DRF Bets account, especially if you are a DRF Bets mobile user. You get a Preakness Day 10% exacta winners bonus on all of the Pimlico races on Saturday if you play through your phone. DRF.com/Preakness bonus is where you go for all of the details. Let's meet the field for the Dixie. They're going 8.5 furlongs. We are expecting the number 6 Flame Away to defect from the Dixie and run in Friday's Pimlico Special. That would knock the field down to 11, but no matter how you slice it, the horse to beat probably is on the far outside, the number 12 Catholic Boy, returning to turf. Won the Belmont Derby last year on turf, won the Travers on dirt. He's got credentials.
He's got all the credentials in this race, a Grade 1 winner on both surfaces. He's off the layoff here. Obviously, the Breeders' Cup Classic didn't go as planned for them. He just didn't run well in that race at all. And so they're starting over here as a 4-year-old. I don't mind them running him on turf, Dan. Obviously, his turf form is very good. He's 4 for 5 on grass in his life. And as you mentioned, he's a Grade 1 winner on the surface as a 3-year-old. I guess we'll see what he does off the layoff here. It's interesting because those 2 wins on turf last summer, he certainly ran well in those races, but boy, in both of those starts, Castellano, first of all, gave him great rides. He looked beat in both of them in the stretch, and somehow he managed to battle back both times to beat Analyze It. He obviously ran well in those races. I do think he's the horse to beat in here. I don't know that I'm going to be betting him at a short price, but I don't see how you don't use him.
I think you have to use him in any kind of multiple race wager. That seems obvious enough. And perhaps he's helped a little bit by the expected defection of Flame Away from a pace standpoint, because he was ridden forwardly in many of his turf races last year, and of course in the Travers. And as we see from the Timeform US pace projector, this will change after scratches are made official on Saturday morning. You're going to visit timeformus.com. This pace projector will change. They had Flame Away, the 6, out there on the lead. With him out, the 7 Real Story will assume the role of pace setter, with the 12 Catholic Boy sitting second. As for Real Story, he finished ahead of 3 of these common runners in the Henry Clark Stakes last time out, going a mile. I just thought he had a pretty easy lead that day, but that was a nice horse that beat him in Irish Straight.
Irish Straight is a nice horse to beat him, but you're right. I mean, this horse, was able to control the pace, and they went slow early and then fast late, and he just couldn't hold on in that race. Not that he ran poorly. I don't think a race like that, though, is going to get it done here. First of all, I don't think he's going to be able to go that slow. And second of all, I don't think if he runs that race back, it makes him that strong a contender in this race. And the other thing is, I don't know, who you liked out of that race, but when I went back and watched that race, I feel like maybe the 3rd place finisher, O Dionysus, would be the horse I would want out of that race.
Let's talk a little bit about O Dionysus right now. He's always been a really rock-solid horse on the Mid-Atlantic circuit. Now, that race was his first start off of a really lengthy layoff. He came with a good run. It just seems to set him up for this. The question is he good enough to take down the likes of Catholic Boy? But he is catching Catholic Boy off the layoff, and maybe other than Catholic Boy, this race isn't Dixie-esque.
I think that's true. I mean, listen, I feel like all of the sort of local Maryland horses, there are a bunch of them in here, and they're all sort of rock solid. I don't think necessarily they're that easy to separate. All of them are going to have to either hope that a horse like Catholic Boy doesn't show up with their best, or somehow find a way to take a step forward. I think O Dionysus may be able to do it. I liked his turf races last year. He went 3 for 4 on grass last year. He ran well in those races. Do I think he's necessarily a graded stakes turf horse? Probably not. But maybe he catches this field at the right time.
Flash Phelps also comes out of the Henry Clark, like O Dionysus. It was his first start of the year. I thought he ran okay. I'm also beginning to wonder if this very likable 8-year-old starting to get a little long in the tooth.
Yeah, I think all those things are probably true. He's been a nice horse for a long time, and he shows up and he runs his race every time. But races like this come up a little tough for him.
The 5 Have At It's projected to get a nice trip sitting in the second flight. And that's what he does, doesn't he?
Yep.
He just gets nice trips each and every race because he has excellent tactical speed. He got that trip in the Hill Prince. He got that trip in the Twilight Derby. He ran well both times. Were you surprised that David Cohen was so aggressive with him in the Hollywood Derby last time?
Yeah, I really was. I was surprised that they sort of went so forward with him early and wound up contesting that pace. I think it really worked against them because you don't have to ride him like that. As you say, he got a great trip when he won the Hill Prince. Not only, just sort of sitting up there tracking, but never leaving the rail. That's when the rails had come down on the turf course, and he never left the inside. He rode the best part of the course. It was still a nice win for him. And then when you go back one start prior to that, his better talk now, he ran great that day. He did not have a great trip in that race, and it really cost him at the end. This horse is good. I think he's got upside. He could be better as a 4-year-old. He can get a good trip in this race. He's a horse I'm using in this race.
And he was facing some really top-notch Southern California runners like River Boyne and, of course, the Chad Brown East Coast Invader Raging Bull. That Hollywood Derby was a strong race. How concerned are you about the layoff? I mean, we're looking at 5.5 months for a horse that didn't fire off the layoff last year and needed a couple of races to break his maiden.
Yeah, I mean, you know, listen, would you prefer that he had a race? I guess that you would. Clement can have horses ready to go off the bench, so I'm not going to worry about it too much, especially if he's going to be, you know, I don't know, 3rd or 4th choice in this race.
Let's talk about something awesome in here. He is the number 9, and it just appears the trainer Jose Corrales is trying to do something new by switching him back to the turf. He's only raced once on the grass in his career, way back in 2017. He didn't do much that day, and while he has good synthetic form, this is a horse that made his name once he switched to the dirt, with big wins in the Charlestown Classic and the General George. He just seems off form, and I think the barn's just trying to shake it up.
That's how I looked at him too. I mean, he obviously has good dirt races that suggest he's a graded stakes kind of horse. He hasn't been that horse since he's come back in 2019. His races just aren't that good, and I agree with you. I feel like they're just trying to shake him up a little bit because it's only turf race. You know, let's be honest, it doesn't make him a contender in here.
24-7 ran in the Arlington Million last year. It was very wide turning into the stretch, beaten less than 5 lengths by Robert Bruce, but he was also in for 50,000 in his most recent effort, and he couldn't get it done. I think he has the ability to be more forwardly placed if the pace slows down, but he has to prove that he's graded stakes quality.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, I just don't see the race that makes him a graded stakes turf horse.
Just Howard is another one of those likable Mid-Atlantic horses coming out of the Henry Clark Stakes, and like several of the others, that was his first start off of the layoff. It's interesting that Graham Motion is removing the blinkers. He ran 3rd in this race when it was off the turf last year, but if you go back, he has races.
Yeah, he does. He was underrated, I thought, especially in 2017. He didn't get a ton of racing in last year, so we'll just, you know, we'll see where he is now as a 5-year-old. But he does have races on the go back. I mean, he is a graded stakes winner on the turf. He's going to be a price in this race. I'm not totally against him.
What do you make of the Australian Invader, the number 4 Parrette, getting Lasix for the first time? Obviously, can't get that medication in Australia, and maybe that's been the problem, that he was just a bleeder over there. I just don't feel like he was running in many of the better class races earlier this year.
Yeah, that's how I looked at him too. I mean, if I'm being totally honest about it, I don't know what to make of him in here. I have no idea if this horse is any good at all, and I guess he'll be a big price in this race. You know, I couldn't make him in here, but, you know, I guess we'll see what he does.
We'll take a look at our top selections for the Grade 2 Dixie Stakes, and we'll readily admit that Catholic Boy is the horse to beat, and we must use him. But you're going to go with the 3 Admission Office, who has done nothing wrong in his career, made his first start for Brian Lynch last time out at Keeneland, and despite catching a distance that I think is a little bit short for him, he just rolled by that field, and I think that race was flattered when the 4th finisher came back to win with a 96 buyer.
Yeah, I really liked that effort from him. And this horse had run really well in all of his starts last year for Chad Brown. There were all races where I still felt like you could watch him in those races and feel like
he's learning.
Yeah, he hasn't quite figured it out yet. And you know, he maybe doesn't even still have it all figured out, because he was a little goofy in the stretch last time too, but he made a big run around the turn in that race just to get into contention, and I liked the way that he kept on to close it down at the end. I liked that effort from him. I think it was a step forward for him, and I think if he takes another step forward in this race, he's a horse that could get a piece of this. He's going to be a price in here, Dan. Like I said, I'm not way against Catholic Boy, but I'm certainly not betting him to win at a short price. And if I'm not betting him to win, I'm not picking him on top. I will bet this horse, though.
He's the upside horse in this race. He's got all of it. We've probably seen the best races from the likes of Catholic Boy and Inspector Lindley, the 2 favorites. I'm not sure we've seen Admission Office's best race. As for Inspector Lindley, I wonder if this is just one of those cases of a Shug McGahee older horse getting fully mature and is now filled out and ready to have a good year. He's won 2 out of his last 3 races, and I think there's no coincidence that both of those races he was close. The last race, that Danger's Hour, was kind of a weird race because we had a runaway speed, and I thought Inspector Lindley was on a little bit of a chase entering the turn, and he kept to his task. It wasn't the greatest field in the world, but I liked that he got it done, and he has the recency advantage over Catholic Boy, and he obviously has the races fast enough to win.
I agree with all that stuff. You You know I'm a fan of this
Oh,
horse,
yeah.
and I'm using this horse 100%. He can win this race. He has all those advantages that you mentioned over Catholic Boy. Inspector Looney's on my tickets.
Mike's going 3, 12, 11, and 5. I'm going 11, 12, 2, and 7 in the Grade 2 Dixie Stakes, the race preceding the second Julian Racing's Triple Crown, the Preakness Stakes. You're going to want to bet the Preakness card all day long with DRF bets on your mobile device. You get a 10% exacta winner's bonus all day long. DRF.com/Preakness bonus is where you go for all the terms and conditions. Approximate post time for the Dixie, 5:39 Eastern. Good luck.